So I want to like preface this by saying that there's not much background. So I did take my own like creative intent into the sermon and kind of made it my own. But anyway, so have any of you ever been in a situation where you knew that the only thing that could save you, the only thing that could heal you, was the one touch from Jesus? Jesus was the only answer. Nothing else could heal you. You knew desperately, like, if I could just get an answer, I need to keep praying and praying and praying. You knew that Jesus would fix it. Hi, my name's Shauna. Most of you guys know me as a woman with the issue of blood. I guess I left my name out because it wasn't that important. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things anyway. There's a lot left out of my story, but I'll give you some background, just a little. My dad, he was wealthy. He was a salesman. He got around. Most people knew who he was. My mother, beautiful lady. Everybody was always talking about how beautiful she was, the clothes that she wore, and all these, how great she was. And then my brothers and sisters, we lived a pretty normal life. Obviously, everybody fights, sisters stealing each other's stuff, and when you've got so many kids all around the same age, it happens. Anyway, everything was pretty normal. I grew up, I went to school, I worked with my own mom in the house, and then until the bleeding started, and I tried to hide it. I tried to keep it away from my family, and because I knew the repercussions that were going to happen. And when I told my mom, and I told my dad, you can't imagine the look on their faces, and I could hear them fighting in mind about what to do. Should we tell everybody? We're going to have to kick her out. She's not clean. She's unclean. She's not going to ever be fixed. So my dad made the decision to just send me on my way with some money to go to the doctors, and I had to make do. I went to the outskirts of town, and I found this little house, this little place to stay, and I went to every doctor that I could find. I searched, and I told them about the problem, and I told them, I've been here, and I've had this done, and I've done this, and I took so many medicines, so many like herbs and procedures, and nobody could help me. Nobody could change it. Nobody at all could. I spent all my money. So many people took advantage of me simply because they knew I was so desperate. My body was debilitating. I swear if I looked at myself, something would break. So finally I ran completely out of money, and I had to resort to begging. I think that was the worst. The worst was their faces when they looked at me. Like I'm an animal or something. It was like I lost all of my humanity. So I would just wander the streets all around town and ask people for, a little bit of bread. I think I was laying somewhere for like a week, just laying there, waiting for somebody to give me something so that I could survive on. I did make a few friends though, just a couple people, other beggars and stuff, and word got around town that there was this guy, and he'd been like all these other places, and everywhere that he went, all these people were getting healed, and I knew that I knew that if he could heal those people, he could heal me. I knew that he was my only hope. I knew that if I could find this guy, if he ever came into town, if he ever came our way, then I would find him. I knew I'd have to. So I waited, of course, and by this time, it'd been 12 years. 12 years since I left home. I hadn't seen my family. I had nobody. I had nothing. All I had was the streets. The streets. So finally they said, you could hear the whispers. Everybody saying, Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming. He's going to heal people. We're going to see what he's going to do. So finally I figured he'd be right in the middle of town. So I made my way over, and by this time my body was just gone. I was tiny. The pain was overwhelming. I might as well have just been numb to everything, and I could barely walk, and my bones were so brittle. But Jesus came to town, and I went and I found him. There was this huge crowd. It was enormous, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to get to him, but I know that I have to. So I figured the only way that I could get through all these people without them being like, unclean, unclean, and kicking me back to the back of the crowd was to crawl through their feet. How else was I supposed to get to him? I had to get that healing. So I got on my hands and knees, and I crawled, and all these people, they were kicking me, and I didn't know what else to do, but I had to get to Jesus. So I finally got close. I made my way through, and I reached out, and it was like, it barely even touched the tip of my fingers. It wasn't even like I grabbed his robe. I barely touched it. And when I did, I felt it. It was instant. It wasn't even like this thing that came over me. It was instant. My whole, like, I can't even explain it to you. It was phenomenal. And so I thought, I'm healed, but I tried to back away. After 12 years of being on the streets and having to like stay out of people's way, I figured that I should just back away and act like it even never happened. I wasn't gonna go screaming it in the towns. But the strange thing was that after all these people were around Jesus, he started saying, "Who touched me?" How would he even know? How did he even know? I barely, the very tips of my finger touched his robe. How did he know? But the disciples were like, Jesus, there's people everywhere. How are we going to know who touched you? Tons of people touched you, but Jesus wouldn't relent. He was like, who in the world touched me? So I was scared to death, and I was shaking like a leaf, but I knew I had to fess up, or else Jesus would be like freaking out or something. I didn't know what to do, so I knew I had to fess up. And so I was like, it was me. I'm the one who did it. I touched you. I knew I had to. I've had this sickness for 12 years. I had to fess up. I had to tell him. So I was like, Jesus, I don't know what to say, but you asked, and I'm the one who touched you. I was the one who got cleaned. You healed me. And he stopped me, and I was just rambling on, and he stopped me, and he said, daughter. Whoa. I hadn't heard that for 12 years. He said, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. Daughter. I was unclean. Everybody hated me because I had this sickness, and they pushed me aside, and they didn't want me. But this man, he didn't even know me, and I barely touched the tip of his robe, and he called me daughter. What is that? So I did what the man said. I went in peace. I went back home, and I told my family. They almost didn't let me in the house, and I started banging on the door, and I was like, guys, I gotta tell you what happened. So I went in, and I told them. My mom and dad were just ecstatic. They were crazy happy. And so I met all my brothers and sisters. After 12 years, everybody looked different. They moved from like here to here. All my brothers were so tall, and all their kids. And then the best part about moving on and going in peace was I got married. After 12 years of being unclean, I got married. He's so great. Even better than that is the fact that I had kids. After being on the streets for 12 years and being so hopeless, I had kids, and they're so beautiful. They're so great. They're phenomenal. But if I had anything to say to you, it would definitely have to be like, never give up, because if I had ever, even when I was pressing through that crowd, if I had ever stopped going after Jesus, then I wouldn't have been changed for the rest of my life. So never give up, and Jesus will always heal you and give you an answer. I'm not done.
Okay.
Wow. Like what a testimony. I read that, and I was thinking about like what she went through and all those things that she must have felt. I was just like completely captivated by the character, and I thought like, it might be a little awkward to talk about her, and simply because she had that problem, but that was real. And I admire her like never, like no other person. That was so great. So I just want to pray, and then Jesus, thank you for this day. And I pray that God, that you give us a hunger for you and a passion to never relent from searching after you, and you always answer. And I pray that we just take heart in that, and that you're always gonna heal us and provide for us, God. And then we may go through trials and temptations. Let us just run after you like never before, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Right.